would you tell me a little bit about yourself and your own journey into energetic NLP?
Yes, I was always extremely logical, even when I was a boy, and I always knew I wanted to be a scientist when I grew up. And my father was one of the early computer guys, and so I grew up around a lot of science and logic. But I also was intrigued by ESP and dreams. I mean, even when I was really young, and I knew there was this whole other aspect of life too. And I did end up becoming a researcher for 11 years. I managed a research lab for the University of California Medical School in San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were studying the effects of estrogen and progesterone on the tissues in a woman's body. And there were many things I liked about it, but I knew I didn't belong there. And I felt really, really stuck in my life and began to feel really bad about myself because I just, nothing was calling to me. And I'd always believed that something was just going to show up one day.
Okay.
But then at a certain point I thought, well, maybe I'm just fooling myself. And then one day something did show up. I'd gone to a lecture on intuition, and I was walking down the hallway, and they had a bulletin board. There was a poster that said Neuro-linguistic programming. And when I read the words, it felt like a bolt of lightning went down the middle of my body. And part of my mind was going, what was that? And the rest of my mind was going, well, what do you think it was? It was some kind of sign. And, but I didn't think in terms of signs particularly and stuff back in those days. So, but it was sort of unmistakable. So I started reading about it, and then I took the very best course that I could hear about. That was the next one I could take, and it was like an advanced course, but I took it anyways because I was just so driven to find out what this was, and had an amazing experience, and then sort of never looked back. At the same time, the people that were teaching me NLP, it was Marin County is north of San Francisco, and it's a very progressive area. And there were a number of people in the programs who were into channeling and psychics and healing. And I started getting exposed to amazing things. And at first I kept the two things separate. I started taking courses and was shocked at what I could do. And but I kept it separate from the NLP for a while. And then I realized that NLP was wonderful and it had its whole set of limitations. And the energy work and spiritual work was wonderful, and it had huge sets of limitations. And when I put them together, they really balanced each other. So that was really the birth of energetic NLP.
And how long ago was that, Art?
Well, I started really putting it all together, 84, 85. But for years, I was very intimidated about doing it in public.
Okay.
And I was also doing corporate work, leadership, and team development. And I thought, oh my God, they're all going to think I'm a flake. And it just had a lot of fear about really being open about what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it just reached a certain point where I went, the fear doesn't really matter. What matters is that I do my work.
Yeah.
And it's all been great since then. And I still do the corporate work too. Well, one of the first times I did it publicly, I spoke at a really big international NLP conference in the U.S. in the early 92 or something. And when you would Google me after that, the fifth thing that would come up is, Art Giser speaking on NLP and psychic phenomena. And I go, some of my corporate clients were pretty conservative, and I thought, oh my God, but I just realized, well, things will happen as they happen, and I'm not willing to hold back my truth and what I believe in, and things that were giving people wonderful results. Yeah. So now I do both.
Yeah, and you just have to show up in the full version of yourself, don't you? And take off the mask and be authentic, I guess.
Well, in the corporate work, I show up and I'm my full self. I don't talk about everything because that's not what they're hiring me for. They're hiring me for better leaders, better teams. And I use the energy work. I don't talk about it because, to me that feels like that's not really right. If I didn't sell my services as an energetic leadership coach, but that doesn't stop me from using it.
Yeah.
But in my other work, I'm just fully out there now.
Yeah.
And fully enjoying it.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I get much the same myself because I work in corporate and in with people in their day-to-day lives. And it's always interesting when I get introduced by some of my colleagues. This is Lisa. She talks to dead people. Yeah. Okay. And now I'm gonna do some leadership work with you. And they're kind of a little bit freaked by that, but hey. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's all good fun. It's all good fun. So obviously you've kind of touched on it there, that there's the spiritual and the energy work, and then there's NLP. So I kind of understand that because I kind of do both.
So how it'll be different is my courses are not NLP courses. So for people who've never taken NLP, they don't need to. I'll teach them the part of it they need for what we're doing. And
okay.
I highly encourage people that are interested to go ahead and study NLP too.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of if you get away from thinking of NLP as a bunch of techniques,
yeah,
and thinking about it as it was the thinking that created the techniques,
yeah,
that's a lot of what I brought to energy work and spirituality. So one of the things that makes me crazy, and I don't mean this as a criticism of other people, they do good work, but most people, when they talk about spirituality or energy work, it's like God has told me what to tell you, and they're absolutely sure that everything they're telling you is absolutely true.
Okay.
And I think that they say things that are useful. I just think they're often incomplete or incorrect, which is fine. It's totally fine, other than they don't recognize it.
Okay.
So one of the things that I bring into energetic NLP is the whole idea of these are models, and we will experience the world through the way that we think. And the world of spirit and energy, to me, is beautifully and fantastically complex. So we need to make simple models to work with it. But when we think the simple models are the truth, then we box ourselves in.
Yeah, it's limiting then, isn't it?
Yeah, so some energy systems teach that your energy centers look like little tornadoes going forward and backward. And other systems say your energy centers are in your sushumna, a central channel,
mm-hmm.
and they have petals and they point up. Well, that's two very different concepts of chakras. And to me, they're both correct and they're both incomplete. I think it's all of that and a lot. When I ask to see more of what's really happening, my perception is things are just deliciously complex and beautiful. And then I'll go, okay, now just show me what I can handle in this moment. So in energetic NLP, the goal is always that people find their inner wisdom and their spiritual information, not believe what I'm telling them.
Okay.
And I think it makes it very, very different than over 90% of the energy and spiritual systems out there. So I don't want people to believe what I say. At the training programs, you see, I'll make people take a pledge not to believe what I tell them.
Okay.
And people look at me and they laugh, but they look at me like crazy American. But I truly mean it. My job is to help people get in touch with what I call the miraculous self, their inner wisdom and spirit, and then they'll get whatever answers they get that are correct for them at this point in their spiritual journey.
Okay, so it's very much down to the individual and their own interpretation of their own inner guidance system. Yeah,
and I encourage them not to completely believe that either.
Okay.
At this moment, I'll talk about beliefs du jour. It's like, this is what I believe at this moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not committed to believing the same thing tomorrow or next year. And so I want them to see all this as a wonderful spiritual adventure.
So it's always evolving. Yeah. It's kind of a journey that is always unfolding and always evolving.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Brilliant.
And rather than trying to get somewhere, the other way in which it's different than most energy systems is I see a lot of very, very talented healers and clairvoyants who are very, very talented, but to me, the work they do is very, very superficial.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when I would get a healing, to me, it's like, do you ever gotten body work or like deep tissue work?
Yeah.
To me, the difference is between getting a really pleasant little Swedish massage, which you feel better for a few hours, and getting real body work where your body shifts.
Yeah.
And to me, a huge percentage of energy workers and healers are doing superficial work and they just don't know it. It isn't that they couldn't go deeper. So they clear somebody's energy, but things come back. It's the theory that in the model that I operate under de jour is that everybody's the sovereign of their energy space.
Mm-hmm.
So all these things about energy vampires and all of that, I really discourage, not that you can't see things that way, but I want people to go, I'm the queen, I'm the king of my energy space. So if somebody else's energy is in my energy field and I don't like it, then the question is, what is it hooking into that's mine or that I'm holding on to? Is it a belief? Is it a program? Is it karma? Is it a spiritual contract? And then in energetic NLP, we work on healing and clearing that so that it's a lot like if you dig weeds out of a garden. If you leave the roots, they just come back.
Yeah.
If you get rid of the roots, then you might get some kind of new weed, but you're not going to get the same old weed over and over again. So there's a lot of NLP in it. People that don't know NLP very well, sometimes they go, where was the NLP? Because they're looking for a swish or eye movements or something.
Who do you feel is your inspiration? Who's your greatest teacher?
I have so many fantastic teachers and mentors. Now, I'll name a few. In NLP, Leslie Cameron Bandler, Michael LeBeau, and Richard Bandler,
mm-hmm.
well, and Robert Dilts, were all huge influences on me. And many other people too, but they were all huge. In terms of energy work and spirituality, I've been fortunate enough to receive 2 empowerments from the Dalai Lama. I've received darshams and worked from different Hindu saints, and I worked with one of my teachers was a Philippine psychic surgeon, not the chicken parts type. I mean, this guy was very for real. Amazing healer. I've studied with an Amish hereditary healer. I've studied with very, very Western healers and energy workers. So each one of my teachers has taught me something incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I've really looked at a lot of my teachers studied with from a lot of systems, and I try to keep broadening it.
And so what's next for you then, Art, in terms of your journey?
Not quite sure how to answer that because I'm constantly growing and evolving. I mean, daily, weekly, certainly weekly for sure, often daily. I constantly work with my support network, and my abilities keep getting higher and deeper and wider, and whole new areas are opening up. People who've taken my programs, on and off for years, really notice the differences. So I'm in a state of constant self-evolution. So what's next for me is to keep doing that, and there's it's past time to really allow energetic NLP to get to be a much bigger level. I'm working on a book, and there's some interest from publishers in it, so we'll see how that goes.
Great.
Eventually, be training other trainers and things like that.
Brilliant. Wow, fantastic. Well, I look forward to seeing you in July. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
In a couple of weeks.